I'm Michael Tilley with Talk Business and Politics. Welcome to another edition of Supply Side Digital. We're fortunate today, and Carol, I'm not saying this to flatter you, but I've been keeping up the retail sector now for more years than I'd want to admit, and there are just a handful of people who we trust who have a good handle on what's going on, not just what's going on in the industry, but what's coming down the pike. You're the CEO and founder of Spieckerman Retail. Give me I know what you do, but just for our viewers, give me just a hint of what it is you do every day in your business.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, retail right now is operating in a very opportunistic environment. Nobody's staying in their lane. Everybody's kind of playing in everyone else's sandbox. And along with that, you have all of these new stakeholders that are coming into retail. Not just the usual suspects like retailers and product suppliers, but now you've got technology companies, solution providers, consultants.
Content providers.
Absolutely. Yeah, lots to talk about there. But what I do is I help all of those diverse stakeholders, and in light of all of that opportunism, connect the dots.
Okay.
And I help them distill those higher truths that are guiding retailers' decisions. And with a focus on the retailer, there's a lot of great information out there about consumers and consumer data, and a lot of folks focus on that, rightfully so. But the retailer's perspective is not the same as just tracking consumer trends. They have unique strategies. So that's my focus. And also, again, getting to those higher truths that help everybody make sense of all of these seemingly disconnected and even random events that are happening in retail. But the way that I do that is through my retail trajectories. And these are themes that I'm constantly creating and connecting and mapping. And they transcend those silos that used to keep everyone in their lane, categories and channels and business models and all of those consumer touch points. So these trajectories create a new language that allow my clients to kind of get their heads around where retailers are going. And then we harness those into differentiating their retail strategy. So at any given time, I'm tracking 40 or 50 trajectories, and I curate those for the presentations that I give at conferences, and then again, of course, integrate them into strategy.
Now the challenge is those trajectories, that's not point A to point B, straight line trajectories, are they? Well, they're all over. It's from month to month or week to week, they're doing this. What are some of those more erratic, may not be the right word, but more interesting trajectories that you're following now?
Well, you make a really good point. It's interesting, though. The trajectories are meant to withstand the test of time. Some of them I was tracking, 2-3 years ago. So the interesting thing is to see how they evolve and morph and the new examples of them. So they're not necessarily becoming new trajectories as fast as the examples of them and the way that they're evolving and mutating is changing. So I'd like to share...
Give me an example of that.
Well, okay. Well, the guiding principle for all of them really is, in sort of the master trajectory, if you will, is that retailers are no longer just places that sell stuff.
Right.
They are fast becoming and operating more like the lean technology platforms that they are modeling their businesses after, that they're partnering with, and like our friends at Walmart, really setting the example here, actually acquiring. And this idea of platform positioning, and suppliers in particular positioning platform to platform rather than just selling products to retailers, is a real game changer. But along with that, in terms of specific trajectories or calls to action, I recently wrote an article about one that is going to be really important going forward. Walmart serves as a prime example of it, that I call buy, build, or bridge.
Buy, build, or bridge.
Yes.
Okay.
And it wasn't that long ago that retailers were really averse to outside partnerships. They thought they could grow everything themselves, right down to creating and marketing their own brands.
Well, and plus they didn't want anybody on the inside knowing their business.
Absolutely, and that actually continues to this day. And that is what's informing retailers' decisions in some cases to build, because they don't want to share certain types of data with outside parties. But increasingly, retailers have never been more open to outside partnerships, bridging their way to innovation. They know they can't grow everything themselves, nor do they want to. And again, looking at Walmart as a prime example, really setting the standard for buying, this acquisition activity that's just going crazy and accelerating in retail, again, with Walmart leading the charge. What's different too, though, is all three strategies need to be at work simultaneously for retailers that are going to be successful. Buying, building, and bridging simultaneously, and making pretty quick decisions about which strategy makes sense to accomplish specific goals.
So what is buy, build, or easy to understand, somewhat bridge? Tell me it's a bridge example.
Well, a bridge example would be some of the partnerships that retailers are forging with third-party data companies,
Okay.
with technology providers, sometimes on a white label basis. You know, they don't necessarily disclose who their partners are, and a lot of times it can look like something they built, but they actually partnered with a back office, if you will,
Okay.
provider to make it happen. As a ancillary piece of that, you know, I've been talking about burning bridges, which is the fact that once they do bridge these innovations, they also reserve the right to jump off of those platforms and turn it into a buy strategy. But the big takeaway is that suppliers need to be aware of this, and they need to think about how they're positioning to retailers in relation to their decisions to buy, build, or bridge. And there's also an opportunity for suppliers to start thinking in terms of how they need to bridge in order to be, you know, more relevant to retailers, how they might need to partner with others, even competitors, in order to do that. So buy, build, or bridge is a very big dynamic that is going to be a key decision that all retailers are going to have to make very much going into 2018 and beyond.
Well, there's a good segue. You're seeing these trajectories along the buy, build, and bridge. What are you seeing? Maybe this is an unfair question, but put your crystal ball.
Okay.
Let's get your crystal ball out. What is going to be at the end of 2018? What are we going to be talking about that's been the most interesting, or maybe the top 2 or 3 most interesting aspects of that Walmart supplier relationship? Whether it's innovation, change, whether it's something related to OTIF. At the end of 2018, what are we going to be talking about?
Well, it's a pretty broad question, but at the end of the day, retailer-supplier dynamics have changed massively, and to a degree that I don't think, you know, many suppliers are necessarily embracing. And there's so much focus on all of these shiny objects that are happening. So it's really, it's incumbent upon suppliers to distill that down to, you know, these actionable steps. You know, and again, that's why I have these trajectories. You know, one that I've been talking a lot about that is very much accelerating and impacting supplier relationships, with Walmart in particular, is what I call the alien invasion. And that is the fact that all of these folks from outside of traditional retail are coming into retail and into retailer HQ. You mentioned content. You've got content mavens. You have digital folks from digital agencies.
Content mavens. Okay.
Well, I mean, it's an expertise now, and
Right.
they want the folks that really know what they're doing there, not just tacking it onto somebody's
Right.
existing responsibility. And so I tell, you know, folks that you've got to start embracing those aliens and thinking about how your positioning resonates beyond just the buying office.
So it's okay to be a non-merchant and work in Walmart headquarters then?
Oh, absolutely. You know, it used to be...
What would Sam think about that, you think? He'd probably, of course, welcome it, knowing his approach to technology.
Well, I think Mr. Sam would be all about it, because he was always about, you know, really sort of no sacred cows relevance. But it's a very big changing dynamic, and you see a lot of, you know, one of the myths that you see out in retail is that, oh boy, you know, retailers are cutting all these jobs and it's smaller, smaller, smaller. Well, they're cutting some positions, but they're also building others.
Growing in other areas.
And so it's more of a shift than it is, you know, just attrition. And so suppliers need to keep track of these new roles. They need to learn what they entail, and they need to get to know all of these new decision makers and influencers. But more than anything, they need to tailor their positioning in a way that resonates with these folks, so that they can, you know, get the job done and again accelerate their business development. So embrace those aliens, and stop looking at the
See,
usual suspects.
Aliens, okay, we're going to wrap this up. Aliens, content mavens, buy, build, and bridge. Those are some of our lessons today.
The aliens, and I'll throw in one more, and what that I call shaping is the new responding, and they all sort of tie together. The fact that retailers that are the most successful retailers going forward are not just reacting to what consumers are doing. They are in the business of shaping consumer behavior. And what that changes everything on the supplier side, because when I ask suppliers, what are your shaping strategies? They soon realize that most of what they're doing is all about reacting and responding either to retailer requests or to perhaps data that they have on what consumers are doing or have done in the past. So that goes back to that platform positioning though. There are more than just products on retailers' platforms. There's content, there's big data, et cetera. So those are shaping tools. And so thinking of suppliers as partnering with retailers in their shaping strategies and ways that they can get ahead and shape consumer behavior. And Walmart is the master of this. They don't call it that, but that's very much what their game is all about. They're not just responding, they're shaping.
It's like somebody named Steve Jobs shaped consumer preferences.
Yeah, absolutely.
Carol, thanks so much for your time.
My pleasure.
We're going to have you back because there's too much
to
package in 10 minutes or so, but thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Arkansas Electric Cooperative Corporation provides electric energy across 2/3 of Arkansas. This is an exciting time in our energy history, with incredible progress being made in renewable energy and storage technologies. As our energy portfolio continues to diversify, we'll maintain an all-the-above strategy to provide reliable and affordable electricity. Ever since the first light bulbs were placed in our members' homes, the electric cooperatives have been the solutions provider for our members, and we want to continue that well into the future.
Each day, the promise of our nation begins again. Arkansas and America, moving forward. I help make that promise a reality. It's not for everyone, but people everywhere depend on us.
Oh, I love you too, sweetie.
Trucking delivers, or everything stops. And that's what drives me.